The #1 Texas Longhorns play their first ever SEC game this Saturday in Austin versus the Mississippi State Bulldogs. How will the MSU offense survive without their starting quarterback? Why is the Bulldog defense one of the worst in the country? Which opposing players can make some noise? And most importantly, can Texas go 1-0 to open up league play? After the video, you know Inside Texas is the #1 spot to stay in the know on your favorite football team. Inside Texas just launched a new YouTube channel that I produce, so come see my analysis more in depth Monday through Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Central. The best team reports, the most accurate recruiting news, and insightful pre- and post-game analysis is dropping daily. Subscribe to InsideTexas.com and the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel today. Link in the description. This game has been several years in the making since Texas announced its intentions to join the Southeastern. Can the Horns thoroughly handle a Mississippi State team struggling to keep their head above water? Without further ado, let's get into it. It's been a rough couple years for the Bulldogs after Mike Leach's sudden death. Defensive coordinator Zach Arnett took over, but that didn't last. State hired Oklahoma's offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby, and he runs a modified veer and shoot. The offense likes wide splits for the receivers, isolating the box, and making defenses choose to defend the run or the pass. It's known for its quick tempo as well, but not so far this season. The offense is the better performing side of the ball, which is impressive since they're starting 11 new offensive players, and Baylor transfer quarterback Blake Shapen was the reason for any sense of early stability. 34th in the country in yards per pass, mid-tier and consistently moving the ball with a 68th ranked passing success rate. And they're good at getting chunk plays, ranked 35th in passing explosivity. And I wrote a solid 4 minutes of content breaking down Blake Shapen's strength and weaknesses, and fans don't seem to realize he was quietly one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, ranking 3rd overall. But to continue with Mississippi State's string of bad luck, Shapen injured his shoulder in the 4th quarter of the Florida game, and he's out for the rest of the year. So now we wait and see if the offense falls off the deep end. True freshman Michael Van Buren Jr. was thrown into the fire, and he managed well given the circumstances and his lack of experience. 7 completions and 13 attempts for a sketchy 54% completion percentage, but he had an average 7.7 yards per attempt. Pepper in a couple of scrambles as well, and he demonstrated his ability with his legs. Van Buren, of course, won't be able to replicate the decisiveness of an experienced Shapen, but we can extrapolate some of Shapen's production this season to see how the offense might look with a new quarterback in control. Quick decision making is important in this offense. Quick throws on screens, RPOs, and short concepts are the engine driving the offense forward and making the deeper concepts possible. You want to simplify this as much as possible for a young Van Buren. Shapen was an effective deep passer with a 3rd best 57% adjusted completion percentage at that range with some solid deep options at receiver. Van Buren in high school wasn't afraid to let it fly, and he attempted 3 passes over 20 yards last week. On the pass rush, be aware he's plenty athletic enough to sidestep the pressure and still launch it if he's got a clear target. Him and Lebby have nothing to lose in that regard. Shapen didn't throw intermediate often, lowest in the SEC attempt share-wise, but Van Buren went 3 for 3 on intermediate balls in his first game. And Van Buren can move. Designed runs and rollouts are smart to add to the menu, and he will frustrate an undisciplined defense after picking up a first down on a scramble after every defender turned their backs in man. He's super young, and it's far too early to put real expectation on him given the circumstances. But he also isn't helpless out there, so Lebby might as well let him play ball. Shapen so far was an upper-tier, experienced quarterback effectively orchestrating his new offense. The biggest problem Shapen faced was surviving his offensive line, and we'll have to see if Van Buren will suffer the same fate. Shapen led the league with 11 sacks and a high 26% pressure to sack rate, but that's on the offensive line more than it was on Shapen. Blake was only responsible for just 11% of those sacks. Due to leaky offensive line pass blocking, Shapen led the league in scrambles as well with 18. I'd imagine Van Buren will also have to rely on his legs to make plays, and he might actually be better suited to do so. So a quarterback going down for the season sucks, and it especially sucks when he was actually doing a good job. But now it's time to see the young Padawan try to decipher this staunch Texas passing defense. That offensive line that exposed Shapen to a lot of danger is currently ranked 11th of 16 SEC teams in offensive line unit pass blocking efficiency, giving up 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, and 25 hurries for 28 total pressures. Mississippi State is missing any top 10 pass blockers, but they do have 2 in the top half. Center Ethan Miner is 19th, and Texas Tech transfer left guard Jacoby Jackson is 36 of 93 SEC pass blocking linemen. And now taking a look at the receivers, first in targets with 27 will be familiar to Texas recruiting fans. The speedy 5'11", 180-pound junior Kevin Coleman was a Texas target a few years ago. He went to Jackson State with Dion and then Louisville last year. Definitely a dynamic slot receiver you'd be wise to keep your eye on so he doesn't skirt off for the huge play. Coleman is 9th in yards after catch per reception, so MSU throws a lot of short completions to him so he can get loose and rack up extra yards with his shiftiness. Overall, he's the 14th graded receiver out of 37 in the SEC. Second in targets is actually a tight end. Seydou Traore had an interesting path to the field originally from London, England, and then moving to Florida. He led his Arkansas State team in yards and touchdowns before a brief stint at Colorado. He's an intriguing athlete at 6'4", 235 pounds with excellent movement ability. Traore will impress you on the field when he catches the ball, even though that can be a little bit dicey with a bad 60% catch rate. The trick to evaluating him is watching him without the ball. I've seen some lazy routes and uninspired blocking a few too many times. Good athlete, not a good football player as of yet. Overall, he's the 13th ranked receiving tight end of 19 in the conference. Third in targets with 15 is the 6', 195-pound junior Jordan Mosley on the outside. No single elite trait, but he is a good route technician and he made a nice contested grab in the end zone versus Florida. He has a 14 yards average depth to target, so watch for him around the sticks, but he will go intermediate and deep about equal amounts. Overall, Mosley is the 16th rated receiver in the league. Fourth in targets with 14 is freshman Mario Craver with the fastest verified track time with a 10.7 100 meter. His route tree isn't too advanced for his age, it's quick end breakers or using that speed on the deep ball. Craver is the most targeted receiver deep and they'll take a couple of shots per game, so be aware of that. Otherwise, set a nickel or a linebacker in the hook curl and stop the slant. Craver ranks 17th of 37 pass catchers in the Southeastern. And some honorable mentions are senior receiver Kelly Akari, and he's a 6'1", 200-pounder that does his best work in the intermediate game. And then a second tight end to watch for is the 6'6", 250-pound Justin Ball, and he's going to pop up from time to time as well. It's not an elite group of pass catchers, but it's not a bad room either. It's the run game that's actually holding this offense back. And they were able to boost their stats a little bit playing an awful Florida run defense, but MSU still has major issues running the ball. 107th in yards per rush with 3 yards per carry. They have to rely on the occasional long run to get a majority of their positive yards with a 45th ranked rushing explosivity. With a second string quarterback getting the start from here on out, the run game simply has to step up to keep them out of those third and long situations, but I don't think that's going to happen. The Bulldogs only have one run-blocking O-lineman in the top half, and that's barely, with center Ethan Miner at 40th of 103 SEC run blockers, so the line struggles there. But beyond the line not being effective, the backs aren't improving the situation either. Lebby utilizes a committee approach, and all three backs are bottom half of the league performance-wise. First in attempts with 36 is Devon Booth, and he's posted a bad 3.7 yards per attempt, ranking 30th of 36 SEC backs. And he will catch your eye with a burst of speed sometimes, but down to down he isn't adding a lot of value. And he can't fight through tackles with a bottom tier yards after contact per attempt. Booth is the 29th ranked SEC running back. Second in attempts with 32 is Johnny Daniels, and he has a slightly below average 4.9 yards per carry. He does run with some confidence though, with a pretty good 3.84 yards after contact per attempt. But Daniels has also fumbled twice, so Texas defenders need to make sure they are punching at the ball. Overall, Daniels is the 32nd graded runner in the conference. Third in attempts with 29 is Kevon Lee with a 22nd ranked 4.8 yards per carry, a middling yards after contact per attempt, and an average breakaway percentage. Lee is the 23rd graded back in the league. In the running back room, there's really nothing here to wow you. They'll step off every now and then with a nice run, but it's not something the defense has to be overly concerned about. But we do need to see how much they're going to try to lean on the run game now that Shapen is out. So in totality, you'll be dealing with an inexperienced quarterback trying to facilitate a primarily pass-focused offense with a pretty solid collection of receiving talent, but it's ultimately limited by the offensive line's pass blocking and an unimpressive run game. With Shapen at the helm, you'd at least have to watch out for a good night through the air, but they are lacking the versatility to test defenses on multiple planes. And now we don't even know how the passing game's going to look. So the one part of their game in year one that at least gave them a puncher's chance has also been decimated. It's a rough go. Overall, Mississippi State is ranked the 74th offense in the country in the advanced metric OFEI. The Texas secondary was finally going to get some real work deep, which would have been nice since other teams haven't been able to test us there. But now that Shapen's gone, who knows? Young quarterbacks do chase the deep ball often since it's usually their first read and they struggle with progression passing early on, but we'll have to see. They have the receivers to attempt the deep stuff, and Lebby does like to take his shots. We just have to see how restrained his game plan is now. Regardless, focus on taking Coleman down on those short passes and behind the line throws so he can't rack up yards. And be disciplined on those quick outs, slants, and stick routes as well, as this offense naturally likes easy completions and those will help calm a new quarterback. Over blitzing Shapen wasn't valuable due to his experience, but most certainly we do want to heat the new guy up. Be aware of his ability and willingness to scramble though. He will likely be unorthodox in that regard as younger quarterbacks aren't as predictable. But Moore and Simmons are both good in pursuit, so can they chase him down for the sack when he does escape the pocket? We're going to have to see. And of course, the Texas run defense has the advantage here as well. Texas is pretty good down to down and run stopping with a 30th ranked opponent yards per rush, allowing 3 yards per carry. But they bow up in short yardage with the 2nd ranked short yardage run defense, the 5th ranked third down defense, and the 1st ranked red zone defense in the country. If Mississippi State is able to get consistent yards on the ground, that might be some cause for concern going into the rest of SEC play. We will have to keep an eye on that. So as you can see, it is a tough first year for Lebby and company on offense, but they are still doing light years better here than on the other side of the ball. But before we hit the defense, the sponsor of today's video is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a skill-based daily fantasy sports app where you can make college football player projections all season long. How does it work? You select 2 to 6 players and choose more or less on their PrizePick projections. It could be passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, and more. And if those players score more or less than their PrizePick projection, you can win up to 100 times your money this football season. I do a lot of Texas and opponent research, so I like to put my insights to the test, and PrizePicks is a fun way for me to put my money where my mouth is. Just hop on the PrizePicks app or website, go to the college football tab, and check out the player projections. It's a smooth process where you can make your entries in 60 seconds or less with fast withdrawals. It's that easy. As a first-time depositor, use promo code TexasHomer and get $50 instantly once you play $5 in lineups. You don't need to win your lineup to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So sign up for PrizePicks, use promo code TexasHomer at sign up, and add even more excitement to your game day. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Link in the description. Lebby chose a former Texas assistant coach in Coleman Hutzler to lead the defense, and it's his first time being a defensive coordinator, but Hutzler is respected in the coaching ranks and has always done a good job in his other positions. But year one for any coordinator is going to be rocky, and this season is no different. 113th in opponent points per game, 105th in opponent yards per play, and 109th in opponent yards per game. Here's why. The Mississippi State rushing defense is porous. Arizona State beat them down with 346 yards rushing. G5 Toledo pushed them around to end the game. And a bad Florida team ran for 226 yards on the ground at 6.3 yards per carry. 103rd in yards per rush, and it can be death by 1,000 cuts as the 116th ranked defense and opponent rushing success rate. The only beacon of hope in the run defense is they do have a great 20th ranked defensive rushing explosivity, so people aren't posting those 50-yard runs. But this defense still gets bullied far too often. It starts as usual with the defensive interior. There isn't a single nose or tackle that's shutting it down, with their highest graded SEC run stopper being Kedrick Bingley-Jones at 42nd of 65 run stopping big boys. But he was out for the Florida game with injury. The edge is a better story though, with Jack Brandon Jennings ranked 11th and N. DeMonte Russell at 18th of 67 SEC edge run defenders. Neither starting Mike Stone Blanton or dimebacker Nick Mitchell are top half SEC run stoppers. The secondary is actually having to do a lot of that work. Free safety Isaac Smith is really active with 22 tackles, 8 assists, and 6 stops. Ranked 4th of SEC defensive backs versus the run. Unfortunately, he took a big hit last week and he left the Florida game. At the time of writing this video, we do not know his injury status. The remaining secondary starters are pulling their weight as well. Starting corner Kelly Jones is 36. Opposite starting corner Bryce Pollock is 41st. Starting nickel Brylan Lanier is 49th. And starting strong safety Hunter Washington is 54th of 120 run-stopping DBs. But the defense is on the field way too often and they get worn down in those second halves. You'll see them routinely getting moved off the ball by smaller offensive linemen with a lot of hands on hips. Getting worn down in the run game also leads to getting worn down against the pass when your DBs are the ones doing the bulk of the run defending. State is 103rd in opponent yards per pass, giving up 8.3 yards per throw. And you can nickel and dime them up and down the field with the 127th ranked opponent passing success rate. But similar to the run game, they do help themselves by not allowing the deep shot, ranked 16th in the nation in opponent passing explosivity. Mike linebacker Stone Blanton is ranked 7th of 49 SEC coverage linebackers, and he's only giving up 4.8 yards per reception. Dimebacker Nick Mitchell is struggling in space, though, ranked 44th. And like I said, the secondary personnel is not putting up much of a fight. Their highest graded coverage DB is corner Bryce Pollock at 45th of 112 SEC DBs against the pass. He's the only top half guy, and that's barely. This group averages 0 interceptions per game. They haven't picked off anyone all season. And since pass coverage and pass rush are so intertwined, it's not surprising to see the Bulldogs are lacking production here as well. 129th in the nation in sacks per game, averaging just 0.3 sacks per contest. State has no top half pass rushing interior defensive linemen, no top half edges, no top half linebackers, and no top half pass rushing secondary. Straight across the board, no one is affecting opposing quarterbacks. So put the bad run defense, the bad pass coverage, and the bad pass rush together, and you end up with the 103rd ranked defense in the country in the advanced metric DFEI. The keys for the Texas offense are as follows. The Texas run game is above average but not great. 49th in yards per rush, 32nd in rushing success rate, with an awful 107th ranked rushing explosivity. And all 3 Texas backs with the most attempts are bottom half in yards per carry. So Texas seems to have come back to earth running back wise after Bijan, Rojo, and Brooks. Still, the Mississippi State run defense is lacking, and even an average Texas run game should be able to exploit it. On the other hand, the Texas passing offense is highly productive. 13th in yards per pass, 15th in passing success rate, and 22nd in passing explosivity. This is a big mismatch and should result in Texas having a lot of success through the air. At the time of writing this video, we don't know if viewers will return, but regardless, Texas should be able to keep the aerial assault going. Texas also boasts the top pass blocking line in the SEC in overall unit pass blocking efficiency, only surrendering 1 sack, 4 quarterback hits, and 7 hurries all season. So it's a top performing Longhorns pass blocking unit versus a bottom of the barrel SEC pass rush. Whoever is quarterback should have ample time to get the ball out. It's Texas's advantage on paper in every aspect of our offense versus their defense. It's Texas's first game officially in the SEC, but Mississippi State isn't a good representative of how tough this conference can be. Texas opened up as a 35-point favorite in Vegas, but OU and Georgia's defenses do lurk in the horizon, and playing a clean, efficient style is more important in preparation for greater tests coming around the corner. It's been a few years in the making for Texas to finally join the top league in the sport while being told the entire time they wouldn't be able to compete in the SEC. We will see if Texas can secure its first win of many in the Southeastern Conference come this Saturday afternoon in beautiful Austin, Texas. Thanks for hanging out. Watch some more of my videos here, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want to support quality Texas content. As always, hook 'em.